Bailey Siegfried is your chair, calling the meeting to order. Oklahoma Space Industry Development Authority. It is Wednesday, April 13th, 2022, just after 1:30. And this is our regular meeting, which is quarterly. Glad to have full strength of the board here. We're short one, but that's full strength to me. And we have some new board members to swear in and have an intro from each one of them. So guests in the room.
Good afternoon, Don Whitecamp from the Oklahoma Aerospace and Defense Innovation Institute. How are you?
Fantastic. General Don Whitcomb, who was former chair and 8-year board member here on Oklahoma Space Industry Development Authority, and now leads up more aerospace efforts at the University of Oklahoma. Thanks for being here. All right, so next on the agenda item is to swear in our 2 new board members. So, oath of office, and we use this again?
Slide out.
Okay. Doctor? There we go. I guess I'll move this. Could you take an official? There we go. We'll have this. I do not have this memorized. Okay, and I'll say I, and then you say your name, and then we'll go from there. Okay, I
Brenda Rolls,
do solemnly affirm that I will support,
do solemnly affirm that I will support,
obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States
obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States
of the United States of Oklahoma. Sorry, of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Oklahoma.
and the Constitution of the
There we
State
go.
of Oklahoma,
And that I will not knowingly
and that I will not knowingly
receive directly or indirectly
receive directly or indirectly
any money or other valuable thing
any money or other valuable thing
for the performance, non-performance
for the performance or non-performance
of any act or duty pertaining to my office
of any act or duty pertaining to my office
other than the compensation allowed by law.
other than the compensation allowed by law.
I further affirm that I will faithfully
I further affirm that I will faithfully
discharge my duties as board member
discharge my duties as board member
of the Oklahoma Space Industry Development Authority
of the Oklahoma Space Industry Development Authority
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Okay, I'll do better on the next one. Okay. All right. Oh, yeah. We'll keep you on there. Okay. Okay,
I, Deirdre Gray,
do solemnly affirm that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will solemnly support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Oklahoma,
and the Constitution of the State of Oklahoma,
and that I will not knowingly receive directly or indirectly
and that I will not knowingly receive directly or indirectly
any money or other valuable thing
any money or other valuable thing
for the performance or non-performance of any act
for the performance or non-performance of any act
or duty pertaining to my office
or duty pertaining to my office,
other than the compensation allowed by law.
other than the compensation allowed by law.
I further affirm that I will faithfully discharge my duties
I further affirm that I will faithfully discharge my duties
as board member of the Oklahoma Space Industry Development Authority
as board member of the Oklahoma Space Industry Development Authority
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
All right. Fantastic to have you all a part of this long-term vision of space. Exciting. I'd ask if it's okay with you, if you'd share with the board members, with the board, as well as the audience here and online, a little bit about yourself and your connection to space and how you, and your connection to Oklahoma, and share some of your vision.
So I am an Oklahoma native, was born here, and went to school most of my years here, graduated from Oklahoma State as an undergraduate. Yes. My parents actually founded a company in Stillwater that was focused on aerospace and defense. And when I graduated, I moved to California because they had opened some offices there. So I got some experience in learning to work with defense companies and on government contracting, and a lot of very important experience for me. I returned to Oklahoma in 1998 with my husband and my family, and entered back into the family business, and have been working there. We've been doing space business since the early 1990s. We've been in full-time operation since 1981. We've had over 2,000 employees over a period of years. We're an engineering and manufacturing company, so we actually have hardware products that are on many different platforms. We have hardware products flying in space on both the International Space Station, on satellites. We're working on the Orion, the whole Artemis 1 space launch system mission, primarily power control, electronics, and other types of electronic systems. So we have a long heritage of wanting Oklahoma to be a space state. And its workforce is always interesting, because the more of these types of businesses and enterprises we have in Oklahoma, the better it is for the state as a whole, and the better it is for all employers. So I think that my vision is really seeing Oklahoma continue to embrace this move into technology and this move into space. We see that happening on so many fronts, commercial and government supported. So I think that it is just it's a game changer for Oklahoma if we can increase this type of business. I know aerospace is already our second largest business sector. So maybe we can become the first. Let's be the biggest business sector.
Excellent. Well, it's an honor to serve, and proud to have you on our board. And Frontier Electronics is a space leader from our state as well as the country, in second-generation family business and aerospace and space. It's really going to be great to have your background, input, guidance for many years to come, taking Oklahoma from this atmosphere to the next. So, or lack thereof. There is no atmosphere in space. Right. Well, thank you. Welcome. Appreciate you. And I'm glad this moment is here. I've worked with your company over a couple years, and when I heard about you, it was like, we got to get her on the board. So glad it's come together.
I'm honored to be here. Very honored to be here.
Thank you. All right, Lieutenant Colonel.
Hi.
Deirdre.
Yep, Deirdre, perfect. Deirdre Curry. And so I, wait, where were we starting? I forget what you started. What did you want to know?
You were born in Oklahoma.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So
a pilot.
Yeah. All right. So I retired from active duty Air Force in 2019 from Vance Air Force Base. I was squadron commander for one of the T6 squadrons up there. And when I retired, I decided to stay in Oklahoma, and I got actively involved in the aerospace and aviation and aerospace industries across the state. And I've been working on a small aviation company that focuses. I do consulting. I also provide tutoring for pilot training students. I do have a background in safety in the Air Force as well, so I do some safety stuff. After I retired, I did work at Enid Woodring Regional Airport, so I did some airport maintenance. I was the director there, so just overall airport functions. And then I worked for a small time with the FAA as well. So I'm really happy to be a part of aviation in Oklahoma. From the moment I retired, I've been excited about just aviation and aerospace and just the possibilities that Oklahoma has that we can bring to the country. And I think that we are poised to really get a jump start on where we're going as a nation.
Fantastic. And are you a pilot?
I am, yes. I
What
was-
did you fly? Let's start from the beginning.
So when I originally graduated pilot training in the Air Force, I was immediately chosen to stay at pilot training as a T-37 instructor. And then I went on to fly C-17, so I spent some time at Altus here several times, getting upgraded to different positions in the C-17. But then I ended up being all over the world for the C-17 stuff, and then just T-6s at Vance, and then I purchased my own RV-6, so I fly a little red, white, and blue RV-6 all over Oklahoma, and you might see me at a lot of the fly-ins.
Awesome. And have you flown into the spaceport before?
I have flown
In
into
the
the spaceport.
C-17?
In the C-17 and also in my RV.
Wow. And is it true you can land a C-17 2 or 3 times without,
Oh,
you know,
absolutely.
leaving the runway?
Yes, because the minimum runway length for us is 4,500 feet, and wavered down to 3,000 feet, so you could absolutely do that.
Wow. When with the overrun, it's 15,301.
I know.
Is that right, or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, 15,303 or something
We
like
could
that.
easily
So
do 3 touch and goes.
that's great.
in
And we
one
have
pass.
a great customer or tenant there. The Oklahoma Highway Patrol does training. When you came in, did you ever see them?
Oh,
Did you ever see
I was busy.
chases going on? And,
I was busy.
like hot pursuits? Yeah.
No.
Okay. And how was the runway when you did go in there? Was it
Oh, it was in great condition.
excellent?
Yeah, and then when I flew in my
Love that.
RV-6, I called up the tower and I was like, hey, can I land on the short runway? Because it's on the taxiway, and I was real excited to land on a taxiway. And they
Oh.
were like, are you familiar? And I'm like, well, I can see it. And they're like, you're cleared to land.
Oh, did we have the,
I can see it.
was the main runway open? Or you
Oh, yeah, it
just-
was
Since
open.
you were in your smaller airplane.
It was,
you
yeah,
could-
it was when I was doing my tour of landing at all the airports in Oklahoma, and I was like, oh,
Oh,
I need to
wow.
land on this runway that's actually also a taxiway.
So you did a tour of landing at every
Yes.
airport?
I landed at every public airport in Oklahoma.
Wow, how many are there?
108.
There we go. We were trying to get experience and background all the way down to using our runway and bringing your military background. So really happy to have you on board here with us.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Thank you. Anything from our board members?
Tickled to death to have y'all here. The experience, the wisdom, the knowledge, you've certainly made the board look a lot better. And gonna make the board smarter as well. I'll steal some of your comments, Mr. Chairman. The IQ of the board went up tremendously today when y'all was sworn in. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your service to our country. Thank you for your service as well in this capacity. Very excited about the future of where this entity's headed. It's got a bright future in front of it. So, glad y'all are here.
Great to have you on the team.
Just welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, and brought you some gifts from the board. Last week was the Space Symposium, and I was able to buy, you've heard of space ice cream, this is space salsa.
I'll eat anything.
Yes, and a friend of mine who I met there, his name's Danny, all you do is add water, and this raises money for his STEM program that he does out of Colorado Springs. So there's Martian Spicy Original and Martian Hot. Who likes spicy?
I like spicy.
Okay, Martian Hot, Danny's Rocket Ranch Space Salsa.
Sounds excellent. Thank you.
And this is Danny's Rocket Ranch Space Salsa Martian Spicy Original.
Wonderful.
And
Thank you.
this is
That's very thoughtful.
called the Chair's Coin, Challenge Coin.
Thank you.
There you go. There you go. That's how.
Thank you.
Yep, don't drop it.
Yes. Welcome aboard. All right. As I told I love the foresight and vision of bringing in the experience and, like you said, IQ. I think this is the first time we've had the other half of humanity a part of this board. And I think it's very wise and smart that you were selected to be here, because to go to the next level, we need everybody on board and helping, and that includes anybody and everybody. So I'm glad you're here. Thank you. All right. Okay, so to our formal agenda, agenda item 1689, our Secretary and Treasurer, Dr. Richard Henry, was not able to make it, but he's informed me that he's reviewed, we've reviewed the minutes at our executive meeting yesterday, as well as the Treasurer's report. So the minutes are aligned with the events that took place at our January 12th meeting. I have no correction or adjustment, and if anybody has anything, let me know. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to approve as included in your packets.
So moved.
Second.
Okay?
I'm sorry, who made the second?
I'll-
Gotcha, thank you so much. Mr. Howie?
Aye.
Ms. Gurry? Aye. Mr. Gillette?
Aye.
Mr. Schultz?
Aye.
Ms. Rolls?
Aye.
Chairman Siegfried?
Aye. Okay, thank you very much. Second part of the agenda is to do a similar thing, and I'll kind of tell you how we go through this. So we do the minutes, and then the second we do the dollars. And there's a packet in here that's called the Treasurer's Report. It has the ins and the outs and all the details in between. And our treasurer, Dr. Henry, has reviewed it. I've reviewed as well. We will usually note anything that is not of the consistent monthly expense, and there is nothing specific to note in the last quarter. So with that, I'd entertain a motion to approve as included in your packet.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay? Thank you.
Mr. Howie?
Aye.
Ms. Gurry? Aye. Mr. Gillette?
Aye.
Mr. Schultz?
Aye.
Ms. Rolls?
Aye.
Chairman Siegfried?
Aye. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 1691, to be presented by the OSIDA staff, Executive Director Smith's report. And this is typically where we kind of sit back and we listen, and we learn how things are going. And for you all to know, we have subcommittees where the work and the dialogue takes place. And as new members, one of the requirements is that we never have more than 3 board members, because greater than 3 creates a quorum. And part of the doing the public's work, we have to do it in public, which is the right thing to do, and part of what we've sworn in to do. So always make sure there's no more than 3. So our subcommittees are set up that way. And we'll get you involved once you kind of get in a groove. Okay. Ready?
Well, April 13, 2022, this is a landmark day in the OSIDA board history. I'm glad to be part of it. All right, well, so this last week, actually this week, I've been participating in the Oklahoma Airport Operators Association. They've had their annual meeting this week. It's interesting, as it's probably about, I think they've got about 45 to 50 members of the 108 airports in the state. Number of booths set up, but it was interesting because the spaceport was brought up at least 3 times in the events. Somebody made a remark about the length of the runway. One of the speakers made a point that we have a spaceport in Oklahoma, and the lieutenant governor at last night's reception referenced Burns Flat and the airport there. So it was a good week for us. Actually, I think I may have won the prize last night, but I wasn't there to accept it. So we got mentioned again at that point. So good week for that. In the last quarter, we've not met since January, and so the last quarter has been kind of busy. In the 26th, we had a representative from Frank Lucas's office, U.S. Representative Frank Lucas's office, and their field rep, and they also brought somebody from their D.C. office, which is their legislative assistant dealing with transportation issues. His name is Max Richards. And they came out and spent about an hour and a half to 2 hours learning more about the spaceport. And the DCLA is somebody that actually works the legislation. And for them to come to Oklahoma and the field rep who lives in Oklahoma to bring them out to any number of places in Frank Lucas's territory, or Representative Lucas's territory, is pretty remarkable that they selected the spaceport to spend an hour and a half of their time, because they're usually here for maybe a week at a time. And so to drive out and make the journey there and learn about the spaceport was fantastic. We were great to have that opportunity. Actually, on the 19th, we're going to have a visit from a field representative and the Transportation LA from U.S. Senator Jim Inhofe's office come out. So you're more than welcome to join. If anybody's out in western Oklahoma that day, I'd love to have you join us as well that day.
What date is that?
That is Tuesday, April 19. That'll be in the morning. I can give you more details if you're interested in attending. The Air Force continues to reach out. They want to do continued operations outside of the operations from the ATC out of Vance and Altus. We've had a request for some B-52s to come in and do some testing out there, and they were right up to the time of coming out, and then Ukraine got invaded, and so those guys had to go on another assignment. So we just barely missed having a great photo app to have the B-52s back at our facility. But some C-130s are coming out. They'll be coming out in the next couple of weeks to do some training at our facility. I think 2 are going to be on the ground, and then 2 will come in. So it's a kind of neat operation there. So I'm glad that we continue to be in the mix of operations like that. We love our Air Force partners. Of course, I appeared before both the House and the Senate appropriations committees. The Senate in December and the House in February made the plea for an increase into our budget, and also for any one-time funding that the legislature may feel free to give to us and provide to us for repairs, upgrades to buildings, clearing land for development. And we've also seen, since the beginning of this year, and actually about the middle of last year, after we made our budget preparations, the increased cost of fuel. We're starting to see that now as we're starting to buy diesel for the tractors and as mowing season begins. One of the entities that brings us, that does the service for us, is now charging us fuel service fee that we've never seen before. And so we're going to start seeing expenses that. Increases in our herbicide chemicals have skyrocketed, and then also materials. So when we do repairs, everything has gone up. And so the appropriation that we got last year, we're grateful for that. If you guys remember, we got about a $32,000 increase to our appropriation. Well, most of that was eaten up through insurance, and the appropriation that we got this year, most of that's been eaten up through higher costs. And so we'll see what happens with this year's appropriation, but that's something that we'll probably have to keep in the back of our mind as we do preparations for our budget in the following year and the upcoming years. If you'll remember, the last meeting that we had, we moved forward on a marketing and development study with Burns McDonnell. This was an agreement that we were able to reach. They want to provide to us a marketing and development study to kind of analyze the property that we have there and the capabilities that it has, the weaknesses that we have, the things that we need to shore up in order to become a site-certified location for businesses and entities to locate. That was paid for through some partnerships in Southwest Oklahoma. Oklahoma Department of Commerce sees and recognizes the need for having this study so they can help market our facility. They're the chief marketing team for the state of Oklahoma, so they ponied up $50,000 toward it. City of Clinton, City of Oak City, Weatherford Area Economic Development Authority, AEP PSO, the utility provider, and SWASU even put money toward this agreement. And so we got this handshake deal, started the proposal. The team from Burns McDonnell came and visited on March 7th to put eyes on the facility. That's something that we felt was a good first step before some of the other stuff. But we did provide to them the information about our water infrastructure, about our electrical infrastructure, some of the basics, and then I had them come out and actually put eyes on the facility, and 2 of their crew came out, and they spent about 3 hours. And I showed them the industrial park, I showed them the airport, I showed them the west side, I showed them the south side, I showed them everything that could be seen, so that they would have a good grasp of what it is we want them to study, analyze, and provide us data on. So I think, Kim, if you'll forward, I've got a couple of slides here that will depict, how did I miss that? The Space Symposium, I'll get back to that. We'll chase that back down in a second. What's the next one? How in the world did I get off on that? All right, we'll go back, Kim. We'll chase back a couple of slides. So last week, I was at the Space Symposium. This is the 37th Space Symposium. It's a huge show. Bailey, Chair, do you remember how many that they said may have been there? I heard in the 10,000.
I didn't hear, but that sounds right. It was gigantic.
I heard that number and I thought, I can't disagree with that. Everywhere we went, it was shoulder to shoulder. We went in August, and it was pretty crowded in August, but it was much more so at this one. This is the premier space show in the United States. There is a waiting list of companies seeking to get into this show. We were able to get our 10 by 10 booth that you see pictured here last August, and we reached out to them again this year, and we were asked, how did you get here? What are you doing here? And we said, well, we were here last year, and so they were like, well, okay. Don't expect it to happen again, but we're hopeful that it may. But we had some great partners with the booth with us. Commerce was able to secure it for us again, a 10 by 10 booth, and then we had partners there at the booth with us. Can you back up one more slide, Kim? We had, of course, Frontier Electronic Systems, Duncan Machine Products, and a company from Tulsa, Infinite Composites. Each one of these companies has their finger in the aerospace pie, and this was a good grouping to have at this show. And so that also gave us, in that small booth, we'd have 2 or 3 that remain back in the booth and talk about the items, and then the rest would either go to different presentations or walk the floor and set up meetings at other locations. It was a really effective meeting because we did have a number of meetings set up. We visited with the UK. They've got a space agency. They don't currently have a place to launch from, so they are looking for places to do that. And so we had a great meeting with them, talked about some of the capabilities that Oklahoma has. They invited us to the Farnborough Show, which will be taking place this summer on July 18 through 22, or 18 through 20, yeah, 18 through 22. Next week, or 2 weeks from now, I'm going to be going to the MRO America, and again with Commerce. Our booth at Commerce for that will look much more like this one that you see here. It's a much bigger presence that we'll have at this one, and Farnborough will be a large one as well. I think there's a couple of dozen, or if not more, companies from Oklahoma going to the Farnborough Show, and I'm not sure how many are going to MRO America, but those are 2 really huge programs and things that OSIDA didn't have the opportunity to participate in years past. We just didn't have the budget. We hadn't taken the opportunity to partner up with the Oklahoma Department of Commerce on such things, and so having the recruiting arm of the state of Oklahoma, the Commerce Department, going out and kind of getting a foothold in places and then pulling us along has been tremendous, and we expect to see some great turnaround from doing shows such as this.
Space Symposium.
Yeah,
Who
Space
did you talk
Symposium.
to?
All right, so.
Yeah, give us a flavor of what happened there.
Okay, so there are lots of booths set up, but we already had some meetings already set up. UK Space was one. Japan was there. Australia was there. The Swiss were there. Those are entities that we actually sought out and made visits with. Then we had, I know Commerce had some meetings, and FES had some meetings with specific companies as well. But we had, what did I have in my other report? I think I had probably 25 different meetings set up that we ended up talking with folks, and we had probably 5 dozen people stop by the booth and ask specifics, whether it's about, usually it was, tell us why is Oklahoma here? And so we were able to go down the laundry list of how many, Oklahoma's aerospace history all the way into having one of 13 active spaceports in the United States and being one of 9 states that actually has one. Each of the companies were able to tout what their product was and talk about it. So I walked off with, I think my stack of cards was about that thick of companies that I actually had interactions with at the show. It was a productive show. I counted probably more than 40 cards in my stack. So it was a good opportunity. We'll see if we get another chance at a booth next year, but we're certainly going to continue to try to push for that. It's a very expensive show, and
there's sort of an order of seniority and priority of getting that space, but getting in there at this, having a physical space is really hard to do at this. I mean, this is like the global space show if you want to be in space, and to get a physical spot when the whole world wants to be there is impressive. But that means Oklahoma got some points, and you can like build up
Exactly.
in the priority list.
You have to be a member of the organization, which is tens of thousands of dollars, and then to get larger space and to continue to get space. And then there's to do receptions or to do various meetings, you have to pay for those, and so you build up points. And so even if you can get in at the first, you may just stay at that level, but to be able to move up and get larger points and get better positioning for your booth, you have to build up more points, making more investment. So there's a lot. These booths, I think, I'll throw a figure out, I'm not sure, I think ours was 10. Our booth, our 10 by 10 was 10K. So some of the larger booths, which would make this room look pretty small, we're in the hundreds of thousands. So there's a lot of money spent at this show, but there's a lot of connections. It's because everybody wants to be there. That is the place to be if you're in space, and to get your name out there. And we got in front of quite a few folks this week.
Now, on the military front, this is all the top brass, handful of four-star generals from the president's leadership team, and then leadership from Pentagon, Secretary of Defense, Secretary of the Air Force, Assistant Secretary of the Navy, and the Space Force is there. I mean, all the right people, and then as well as all the right leaders that launch rockets, build space stuff, and there was a big presence of data-oriented people in mapping and understanding space junk and orbit and things needing solution, as well as communication, ground to space, outer space. And then there's a big new kind of presence around commercialized space. And it really goes back to the last couple years, 5 years underneath the leadership of Oklahoma's own Jim Bridenstine, setting up the Space Renaissance Act that essentially allows space. In the past, there's been one customer for the most part, the government, and one supplier, the government, and that's hard to get a real market or a commercial economy around. And now other people are launching to space, and now other people are customers in space. So there's a changing of the presence there. A lot of entrepreneurship. I mean, making space stations, and there's lots more opportunity. And ultimately, that new market economy allows prices to come down and opportunities to go up.
The Nordam companies had a presence there and actually hosted for the Oklahoma group a reception one evening, and we were able to get to that reception. My leader from my agency, the director of spaceports, Pam Underwood, was able to come to the meeting, and also her boss, who is the associate deputy director for commercial space for the FAA, Kelvin Coleman, was at the meeting. I think you got to coin him as well.
Yeah.
So it was. We got to have some face-to-face interaction with some powerful players at this event, and that's one of the things that shows like this afford.
We also gained some valuable input on advancing the Oklahoma Spaceport and our initiatives.
Absolutely.
And
How
with-
helpful was the package that you got from Burns and Mac?
From
Burns.
Oh, okay, so, yeah, the next slide, we'll move into that. I'm sorry, my notes didn't correlate with that. So they got us, Burns and Mac got us some materials that we got to Commerce, and they were able to, they got it to us the day, 2 days before we were to leave, so they weren't able to package and make one-pagers for us.
Director Smith, could you just do an intro for our new board members on the Burns McDonnell?
Sure.
A little bit further on.
The Burns McDonnell is an entity that has experience in the past, and especially working with an an industrial park in the northeast part of the state and successfully helping them put together a marketing and development plan on how to utilize the acreage that they have. So the entity that used them before needed to know where to put industrial, where to put manufacturing, where to put commercial space, and then how to lay out your plats and plats of land for lease and development. And we needed something like that. I've got 1,100 acres in an industrial park, but as far as platting exactly where I need to put something and where best to situate companies and entities, I didn't have a realization of where I'd put them, much less what the needs of some of these companies may be when they come in and they ask for water pressure, or they ask for gas pressure, or they ask for electrical lines and capacities. I didn't have some of those things, and so it was recommended to us that we do a marketing and development study. A number of communities in southwest Oklahoma agreed, and those are the entities I listed off to you a while ago that helped us pay for this. Whereas an agency can take contributions and donations from others, we're kind of a unique animal in the state system that we can take monies like that. And so that helped us pay Burns and McDonnell for this study. The objective was that they get to us some items for the Space Symposium show. The objective was that they started this process about the beginning of March, and they were to have to us some materials that we could turn into marketing development products by the Space Symposium, which was the 3rd and the 4th, I think it was. They got them to us on the Friday before we were to leave. So marketing at Commerce wasn't able to produce materials or devise that information into usable materials that we could carry with us, though they were able to drop it onto their website that we could point people to, and we could carry our tablet or our phone and guide them to some of these promotional materials. Basically, and I'll show you the next slides, kind of give a flyover of some of the material that we had available to us at the show. This is a front page picture of what the report will look like. This is some of the information inside it. We'll kind of show some of the mapping of what our facility looks like, what they were focused on. They've got it divided into 3 different phases. Divided up our industrial park, which is what we wanted them to do. There was parts when they first looked at our facility that they saw some stuff on the west side of the runway that they thought would be the low-hanging fruit for development. Don't disagree with that, but we wanted them to also look at the old base part where the housing and all that infrastructure currently already exists. There's nothing that development on the west side, so we wanted to find out too what we could do on the east side. So they've put that together. The next page, Kim. This kind of gives us kind of the employment type numbers that we'll see in southwest Oklahoma. That's what many developers want to know is how many, where am I going to get my workforce from? What are they doing? And how far are they going to drive to be able to get here? With a little more time, Commerce can turn these into some really useful pieces that we can go and share with companies, and they'll get a chance to massage this information a little bit more. But this is what we had to be able to take to the show and pull up on our phones and our tablets when the question was asked. I think the next slides, as we go through these, this is, I think, phase 1, 2, and 3, I think, are depicted on this one. You can see the runway in the middle in the gray. You see phase 1 on the far right. That's the original base area with it just to the west of the housing. And then you see phase 2. Where's phase 2? Okay, the phase 2 is over on the west side to the south of the gosh, there's a berm over there. I can see it all in my head, but I'm trying to depict it on this. But that's they've divided the property up to kind of show where some ideal locations for property would be. And these are draft portions, so this isn't the final stuff, but this is what they're looking to kind of show us for right now. The next slide, Kim. This is kind of a close-up of each one of those sites. And then the next one. So as we look at this, we still have a little bit of time to go back to them and have them tweak various portions of it before we told we'd like to have had something by the end of March to take to the show, but I didn't want to have them rush through the study and put something together and have everything done by that time. I said, take your time on the rest of it. Give us some data we can actually use and some information we can really use. And so this isn't the final. This is the draft that they had delivered to us by that date, and this is what we were able to take to the show with us. Next slide. This was provided to us I think the last message I got was just before we went to the symposium, so there's still some information. I'm not sure what the timeline is on that, when they're supposed to get that to us. We just visited with them yesterday about the billing address and things of that nature, but I was hoping that would kind of spur the next conversation to say, oh, and by the way, here's this information, or we'll do this, but I'll chase that down and find out what their next proposed, what they're going to get to us in the next step. So this next week, we're also embarking on Air Force reached out to us a couple of months ago and asked that if we could identify a date that they could do a pavement inspection. This isn't a rigorous airport pavement in APE. This is where they come and do core samples. They're just going to come and do a surface analysis of the pavement of the airport. Oklahoma Aeronautics Commission does this for airports around the state on a periodic basis as well, and they reached out about 3 weeks ago and said, hey, we want to come out to your airport. And I said, hey, I don't want to have to close my airport a few times. Let's coordinate our times, and they're both agreeable to it, so they're both going to come out next week, and we'll shut the runway down and let them get their inspections done. We've already notified our Air Force partners and worked with them to make sure that they can do some in-class training, so it's not going to interfere with their flight operations. And we'll still have the guys in the tower, so should a need arise for some general aviation pilot that's in the air, we'll have no time the runway's closed, but should something occur, the gentleman in the tower will still be there to help them. And we'll have the runways open for that. But this will be useful for us and also useful for the Air Force. What's the next slide, Kim? Okay. So I want to also talk about, there's a situation we were reached out to by a gentleman in February that wants to do a conference. He identifies he's a member of a Native American tribe up in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and I've talked to folks, and he's a legitimate player in the aerospace industry. And he had identified our spaceport, saw that and knows and recognizes that Oklahoma is home for 39 federally recognized tribes, saw that we had a spaceport and said, you know, it would be fantastic if we could have a space conference focused on tribal nations and have it in the state of Oklahoma and somewhere near the Oklahoma spaceport. And I said, that's fantastic. Not a lot of space. I said, how many people are you expecting to come to this conference? And it started about 150, and it's moved up to 200, and I think he's up to 250 now. And I said, well, you need to come visit Burns Flat. And so he actually did. He was on his way to a space conference in Austin, Texas, and passed through Burns Flat, and we showed him what our facilities look like with our neighbors at Western Tech. We have a great relationship with them. We cannot accommodate that many people at Burns Flat. So we're working with them to try to find another location somewhere nearby, and we've pointed them to Oklahoma Department of Commerce, Oklahoma City Chamber and Convention Bureau, and also Clinton and Elk City. And it looks like now that they're focused on doing something in closer by, and then being able to do a side tour of the spaceport. He's still committed to promoting the spaceport, promoting Oklahoma. So he wants to do he wants to do this somewhere nearby. And so they're going for a date in November 15 through 17, and hoping to do something in the city of Clinton and invite all these people it's going to be tribally focused, so it's going to be tribal leaders that have some interest or some business already taking place in the space sector.
Could this be an opportunity to utilize one of our hangars and invest in it to prepare it for a broader audience? Or let's research that.
Yeah, there's lots of opportunity for them to come and see the spaceport. Hopefully by then the FBO will be built out.
Oh, I'm saying utilizing a hangar space for the conference.
Not
Using
ruled
that
out.
as a opportunity to spruce it up, clean it up, prepare it.
Is that the limiting factor, or is it that there's not enough building available nearby?
Hotels,
Yeah.
food, and a location to house 250 people plus any show and a symposium. Sponsors are going to want to set up booths and space like
Okay.
that to be able to advertise themselves. So as he kept talking larger numbers and who's going to be paying for this, I said, well, have you thought about where you need to put the advertisers? Because they're going to want to, they're not going to just want to pay a sponsorship fee. They're going to be able to put their wares out somewhere as well. So perhaps maybe we could have, one of the hangars as a wares location for the booths.
I mean, something to explore is potential event space being invested in by some partners in the area, or commerce, or the town with Chamber of Commerce, or the Commerce for the state, and that we could do this annually. I'm just dreaming, but that's where space began, with a dream.
Exactly, and I want to help this gentleman. Right now, it looks like it's largely him by himself putting this together, and so I want to be as helpful as I can to him. And
How amazing would it be to host, in the heartland of America, the center of the universe,
At the
the
Oklahoma
tribal space, conference, so.
Do you have information on like hotel availability? Like, what is the capacity for the area
for
for
Clinton,
hotels and stuff?
I've plugged him into both the Clinton and the Elk City Chambers of Commerce, and they've got those numbers. They've even I think Elk City has an economic development entity over there that they'll have those figures. They'll key them up with caterers, vendors, transportation,
We've
buses.
hosted a customer that brought 80, 90 people, engineers, to the area, and they utilized hotels all around. Isn't that about how many?
He's thinking 250.
Right, but we did do 90, right? 60?
Where was this?
Customer that was testing their
Oh.
airplanes.
Yeah, the customer, yes. They brought 70, and they spread them out. They had some
Yeah.
Elk, and they had some in Clinton.
So, I mean, I think there's capacity. Might need a subcommittee on this.
Well, as far as
The tribal space.
the folks at Western
Yeah.
Tech have a seminar center, and
Yeah.
the fire code says 300, and so
All right.
we've got them on the hook, and they're part of these conversations. And as this begins to develop, and has been developed, we could trade email, and they've shared their concerns and talk about transportation, how to get people out to the facility, how to get them to their hotels back in Clinton and Elk City. I mean, if they fly into Oklahoma City, they're gonna have to find a way out here. Or if they fly into Clinton Sherman, I don't have Uber. I don't have any of those services out in Burns Flat. But we're trying to help them out. We want them to be successful. And
Yeah.
I said, hey, what is it you need? I'm gonna plug you into folks that do this, whether it's event organizers or caterers or whatever. I've given him a number of telephone numbers and contacts and resources, connecting with the local chambers of commerce and economic development entities that have a lot more experience in putting shows and things like this together to help
Yeah.
him be successful. Because that's, in the end, we want him to be successful. We want this to be,
Yeah.
this is a landmark potentially presentation and show, and we want it to be good wherever it may take place. But he certainly wants to include the spaceport in that, whether it's doing a day trip or an afternoon trip or a special meeting out there. He wants to include us in some form or fashion. It's been a great partnership so far.
Let's find a way.
Exactly. All right, and that's it for the director's report. I want to talk about the facilities report. And Kyle has turned in his resignation, and he's moved on to a different entity. And that was in February 17. Since that time, he was our facilities manager for 5 years prior to this. And so on his team, he's got a gentleman that's been there for this, I think they started on the same day, and then we have another gentleman that's been there for 16 years and has worked for a couple of different entities that had run the operations at the spaceport. So he's got a lot of institutional knowledge. And then we have a young man that started with us back in August, I think it was. And so Kyle has found another location, and so we've been advertising through local newspapers, through the state website, through Oklahoma Municipal League and other entities trying to tout the opportunity for a facilities manager. And we've done some interviews, and we've not made a decision yet on where we're going to go with that. We've got some ideas what we'd like to do, but that's, in the meantime, Dan, who's been there for 16 years, is serving as a supervisor in that role, and has been doing an effective job in that role. And the next slide will show us well, this one, I'll talk about this for a second. Of course, it's the season. We bought our chemical for the summer, so pre-emergent spraying has begun. Mowing is going to begin soon. I'll talk about the FBO offices in a moment. In the meantime, since their facility is, the FBO facility is being rebuilt or being repaired, the folks have been going over to the tower to use the facilities over there, but we just had a basketball team stop in about a month ago from Southwest Oklahoma State University, and they pulled up to our building because they were waiting for the plane that they were going to be taking to their NCAA tournament game, and that plane operator wanted to pick them up at Clinton Sherman, so they drove over to our airport, and they didn't know to go to the FBO, so they pulled up at our building. So I had 25 members of a basketball team and all their staff come into the building, and it was fine. They drank the water, they used the restrooms, they hung out in the lobby, and I thought, well, why don't we do this for the FBO guys until they can get that building built out? So we've made our building available to when a plane coordinates with our FBO provider to fuel, they bring them over to our building, and they utilize our conference room, in our bathrooms, in our break room, and the FBO folks have stocked it with coffee and cookies and everything in that office. And so this is a great partnership, because where they were going before, these are multi-million-dollar planes that would fly in and land, and the tower is probably last updated in the 1960s. So if you can imagine what the facilities may look like in that building. And our building is about 5 years old, and so it's been a great short-term repair in that regard. So when folks come in and fly and they fuel, they come over to our building, and so they'll do that until they finish building out the FBO. Next slide, Kim. I think I'll talk about. This is something that's been waiting to be done for so long, and I wanted you to be able to see. I wish General Robinson was here. This is something he long pushed for. That is our air traffic control tower. That's where folks, when they stop to go and fuel their plane, this is where they would come, and they would use the facilities in this building. The picture on the left is a pretty good depiction of probably what the inside looks like as well. And it's a fine building. It was built, this was actually built in the Naval Air Station days. So this is a naval tower, but we did get a contractor out of Cordell, and she finished this up in January. So now we have at least two. It's taken me that long to find at least two contractors that would do painting out here. So now I've got two that can bid against each other. Maybe hopefully I'll get a third and maybe more in the future. But I had the other contractor paint our clinic building. You would love to see the new clinic building, General. It's been repainted and remodeled on the inside, and that other contractor painted it last May or June, I think it was. And so our tower looks much better, as you can tell from this picture here. Next slide.
That looks great. That's been a long time in the process. Can we go back to it for a second?
You want to get a picture of that?
Yeah.
That is a pretty.
Just take a photo of that. That's a big deal.
And they did a really good job.
That picture on the left, I think I took it with
you
this
did.
phone.
That is yours. That's when I captured from your phone. And they did such a meticulous job. I fully expected them to show up with power washers and hit the building and paint it the next day with sprays. And they were out there with hand scrapers, and they hand scraped that whole building.
Wow.
And repainted it. So
have you had feedback or people surprised by it, or any comments?
I haven't. I'll have to ask the guys in the tower and ask the guys at the FBO what if anybody's noticed, if anybody's a regular customer to come in and see and recognize. But again, that's one of the first things that you see when you come to Clinton Sherman is that building, and to have something that looks on the right rather than the one on the left is a much better presentation. We're excited about that.
Former Chair Don Whitcomb, what's your? Is it a surprise to you? It's a surprise to me. It looks amazing.
Visitors are supposed to be seen and not heard, but since you've invited me to comment, yeah, I think that's a wonderful upgrade. The interior, you're correct, was just as bad. Bailey, I remember
Yeah.
through there with you and with Mike Halsey, Craig, right after you came on, and sad day.
Yeah.
Just put it that way. So I think with the upgrades on the exterior looks wonderful, and presuming that the interior has seen similar improvements, that's a huge step forward. Congratulations, Craig.
Thank you very much. Continue to take baby steps.
The
Very excited.
interior is next.
Exactly. Got to put a roof on and then
Yeah.
some other things as well.
And thank you for laying groundwork,
Absolutely.
General.
Okay, next slide. So, talking about something that's taken a long time, this is a flow meter. This has been about a 2-year project, going through all the steps through Oklahoma Department of Environmental Quality, getting an engineer to approve and write plans and designs for this, and that is probably a $250, $300 part, Kim. I think it is under 5, but it's taken us probably about a year and a half, probably about 18 months, and we had to buy a license and a permit, and then we threw dirt on top of it. So, but it's been done, and it's all by the book, and we're
What was
excited
the-
about that.
I don't recall, what was the problem?
Yeah, well, first of all, you had to get an engineer's design and report to design, and I don't know what engineers do, but it took a year to get that, to get the information.
this-
Why do we need the flow meter?
Yeah,
What's
this
it- what's it
supplies
measuring?
the town?
That is our wastewater treatment system.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And again, we provide wastewater treatment for entire airport, air park, and about half the community of Burns Flat. And then we also provide water, fresh water, to everybody in the industrial park. And so we've got an incredible infrastructure underneath the ground that provides and maintains all of this. And so this is one of the pieces that we've been waiting on. We were able to operate without it, but to be able to stay in compliance, we had to jump through a number of hurdles, and it's taken us a long time to do it. It's one of those.
Is this a state requirement?
Mhm.
Okay.
But,
Are we finished with the
it is now
requirements
done.
now? I mean, I know this one's done. Are there others that are undone, or is this it?
This was the only major. We got another backup pump at the well house that's been installed, and then there's some other stuff we need to do, some bit general maintenance on
Yeah,
the
that's
treatment
different than a
ponds, but
requirement. Okay.
but these are the only requirements, and then we finally checked all those boxes.
Awesome.
So we're finally up to date. And-
In your experience on airport maintenance, did you get into the other stuff? Like, water and broken,
Oh, yeah,
uh,
it will definitely, we had to work
fences
with a lot of the, yeah, I know
Yeah.
exactly what he means with working with the engineers and getting the engineers to design.
yeah,
It does take time, it is a process.
yeah.
We did have a lot of this. We had a leak at one point that we had to
Yeah.
dig up and find, and
All right, well, you're in good counsel now.
Absolutely, I
we
can,
have
somebody can explain, yes, it
Airport
is challenging.
experience on the board here. Yeah.
Next slide, Kim. All right, so we've mentioned a number of times the FBO project. And I wanted to have, Dr. Henry is here as well. I hope you can go back and watch this scene so everybody
this-
understands completely. This
do
is
we
the
move
FBO
to
hangar.
Agenda item 1692.
We've jumped down to
Okay.
this is facilities report.
Wait, facilities report is 1691B, then 1692 is the
We're
Lux
not-
Air Jetson.
Not there yet.
Okay.
Still doing facilities report.
Okay.
So as I'm building the pictures, I'm telling the story. This is the FBO hangar. And so this building that you see on this side of the hangar, this faces the south and the west. This is the office area that we were looking to get rebuilt. The previous tenant the building was left in such condition that our crew at the time said, we can't salvage this. And there was carpeting, there was cats, and just keep going down the line.
Oh,
So we pulled,
in the worst smell on earth.
and it was, unfortunately, is when people would stop to fuel, when they went in with a smile, they came out concerned. So that was not conducive for us. That tenant has since left, and that building sat empty 5 years? At least 4 years. I think it's 18 or 17, I think, is when that tenant left. The crew pulled all the material out of that building. It was just going to continue to ferment in there, so they cleaned everything out of the building. The next slide will show you what it looks like today. So you can still see they took the ceilings out, but you can still see the walls, doors, framework. It's still roughly there. The air conditioning, the HVA system still exists in the building. This is the one that I've been working at for the last 20 months to try to get repaired. OMES saw this as an entire rebuild and remodel, which I guess sent us through a number of other chapters of that process. We tried it about a year ago through typical OMES processes, and it proved to be incredibly expensive to go that route. This last summer, Kyle, our former facilities manager, had identified another, supposedly a more streamlined process through OMES to do repairs, and that's the one I told you at the January meeting was going to cost between $275,000 and $300,000 to repair that. Just on a curiosity, I had some contractors come out and give me some bids on what they thought it would take. I had one as low as $60,000, and the others were about $120,000. So 300 seemed a little steep for me, and even at 120, I still couldn't go that process because I still have, as a state entity, I have to go through those OMES processes. We weren't able to do it just through the way that I'd hoped we could. I approached our tenant and said, "This is the situation," and they said, I think we can take care of that. And that's a great thing, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in our next agenda item. Kim, the next slide.
And for our new members, OMES is the Oklahoma Management
In Enterprise
Services
System.
And it's a great organization that supports us in many large entities, and we're a smaller group, so
it's a state agency, and the idea at the time was that, and on paper this looks good, that one entity would take care of it all,
Consolidation, yeah.
rather than every agency having some entity that does that. We've just found in some cases it can be incredibly challenging.
For the most part, it works.
They're good
well.
people and do a good job, and we're grateful for them, and they help us on our pavement repair processes, but it's challenging because some things just aren't apples to apples, and certainly pavement compared to highways and runways is a different animal as well, so that's one of the things we're challenged with. Mr. Board Chair Schultz, or Board Member Schultz, I thought you'd appreciate this picture. This is a brand new John Deere 145 horsepower tractor. Those are 20-foot shredders on the back, and we've got 2 of those. Only one of them has been delivered so far. The other is on its way. And this is part of a
lease.
It's a program that Deere does.
This is the program?
Yeah.
Wow.
That
We did not know about this until about 4 meetings ago.
initially buy, and then you trade every year for $1. And if there's a model increase or a price increase, you pay that. But I bet at OSU, I'm dealing with my 4th one of these tractors, and about every other tractor we've got to come up with about $2,500 to $3,000. And I don't know how many hours I get.
I think 200.
200. So basically, you're getting 200 hours of tractor time for $3,000, $2,000, and that's cheap.
And they take care of all the maintenance.
Say with my experience at Woodring, saying this is a great program. We didn't have this. I wish we did. This looks
That's
great.
I mean, this came up at a board meeting a year ago.
I'm sure they
Because
can, yeah.
Chairman, or Board Member Schultz brought this to my attention, and we chased it down immediately.
I would just say order next year's now.
Yeah.
And hopefully they get here by next year.
Exactly.
They're getting a little backlogged as well.
Well, this replaces the current tractors we've got are 85 horsepower. And so this is, and it's standing next to each other. This is,
Bigger shredders.
Yeah.
This was
Yeah.
yeah, it's 5-foot larger shredders. As depicted once before, it takes our team on the 85 horsepower tractors with a 15-foot. It takes them 45 minutes to do one swath on the runway. These are GPS guided and faster and much better. So
What did Kyle think?
Kyle and Dan were related. This is like these are. I got to sit in it. It's beautiful. I've never.
I mean, that's great. I'm impressed that it was I think it was last summer, probably this board meeting. We were talking about buying a new tractor, and there had to be a better way, and I'm glad we have you with your
So how many
state
hours you
leadership
put on a
as
tractor
well as
every year?
farming experience.
We'll find out. I don't think the tractors have.
They didn't have counters on
I
it?
don't think they've got anything on them to
I didn't know if
give us
200 was a lot or not very much, or
We'll find out. And the beauty of it is.
what happens if you go over 200?
There'll be a fee.
Okay.
There's a penalty per hour or something like that, I think that you
Yeah,
pay.
you can go 220, 225, but they should be able to do what they need to do in a season
Okay.
on 200. The flip side of it is, though, if you don't put the hours on it, you don't get a premium.
It's not a credit.
Yeah.
And fortunately, Vince, right now, it's not raining in western Oklahoma, so we're probably done mowing for the season. We'll still have brand-new tractors next year.
Okay.
And, yeah, and Deere takes care of the maintenance, and having the GPS system in there as well makes the mowing more efficient.
that's awesome.
There's quite a bit.
Fantastic.
I think I shared with this entity last year that one of the islands between our runways takes a full day to mow. There's so much grass inside that, so the efficiencies they can have with.
That's why I know how much land is out there we mow, and I'm sitting there thinking it's 200 hours gonna be enough, and what happens when you get over, but we'll deal with that.
And that's the beauty, is that we have, in addition to these two new tractors, we still have our old ones that will
Okay.
take care of the industrial park, but should they need be, we can pull them over on that. So we're excited about this.
This is amazing.
Next slide, Kim. So, Dan has identified some places on as we're talking about some of these entities coming in and using the 96-acre apron. Even though we've done some repairs on the smaller runway, we repaired some of the upheavals, there's still some that do exist out there. I know the folks are going to bring the C-130 in here shortly into this general area, so we want to make sure that they and anybody that in their small airplane doesn't run over some of this stuff. So Dan put together using railroad ties, and he's affixed these traffic cones on top of them, kind of set aside. There's a couple of places on that apron out there that you're just best not served. And if somebody comes in there in the dark or the dusk or something like that, they may not see these things. And so we want to make sure that that's some of the proactive stuff that our crew has been doing. And they're doing a really good job on trying to make sure that things like that are taken care of. On waiting, we ordered a pickup truck through the JUA. We want to have a new vehicle on site. That's part of our JUA agreement. We ordered it last September. If you try to buy a new vehicle, we're still waiting on that new truck to come in. So that's through a state contract and other things as well. So that's one of the things we're still waiting on. It's an extra cab half-ton, and we hope to have that this year, but we're still waiting.
No estimated delivery date?
No, sir.
Wow.
The high winds lately have caused some rattling on some of our hangars. We rented a lift this week, and they've done some repairs. Small things turn into big things on a big old hangar in the wind, and so they've been taking care of those things and some of the upheavals, and they've begun spraying and mowing if we need. We should be starting soon, and they'll continue to identify things and projects that we need to repair. Those being some of the things we've completed this year. The power tower's been painted, the backup irrigation pump, the pump in the water plant, installation of a regulator, and then I think I've shared with you some other things that need to be addressed as well that our crew is still working on. And once we get a facilities manager in place, we'll be able to chase that down full speed. And that's the facility report.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions, comments, or further information needed?
I do have a question, and forgive my, I should have probably looked this up. I think you said the FBO provides jet fuel, right, but there's no avgas on the field?
Not yet.
Is there any plan to have a self-serve avgas put in at all?
We'd like to have that. They've got a tank that they've identified that they would like to use for it currently.
Well, no, I'm talking about us, right? So
Oh.
not the FBO,
Not
but
the
a Clinton Sherman.
We don't have the resources to purchase a tank and the facilities necessary to do that. I'd like to do something like that. I'm not a fuel salesman, but I understand the markup on avgas is pretty challenging to make money at. But that may be something to look into. And
Have we
if
priced it?
Have we? Yeah.
Okay, well, how much is it?
I don't have those figures available
Okay.
right now, but I've
Just
talked with
curious.
there's two, maybe three, and I talked to
No, I
another
mean
one.
to buy a tank.
300,000, I think was what.
300,000 for a tank?
Yeah, to have it installed in the way that
Yeah,
DEQ
the
wants.
self-serve system that they put in over at El Paso, El Reno. Yeah, I forget what the price tag was on it, but they have a really nice system. But they have both jet and avgas self-serve that they put in there. So maybe give them a call at some point
Yeah.
and see what they did, because I know that they did some really innovative stuff to get that on the field, and then that's just profit for the airport, not for the FBO, especially if this FBO doesn't plan on bringing in avgas. That's just something that might be
Yeah.
something we could look
Yeah,
into.
Maybe could you take a tour of the El Reno?
Yeah.
At some point, and then perhaps it's something we can get support from in the, what is it? The grant requests from
Okay.
AOC Aerospace, or OAC,
OAC.
Oklahoma Aerospace Council, that could support us. And I know that we, a couple of years ago, I don't know if you were here yet, we looked at possibly operating an FBO, so we do have some data.
We've come a
research
long
on
way.
that.
We didn't have one for 5 years.
Right.
And so I referenced baby steps earlier, and
Yeah.
this FBO provider has been very amenable, and they want to do something. They're wanting to see the numbers match on the need for that, and then, of course, the cost of putting this in. They've got a tank that they would like to use. Currently, right now, it's got a pump on it that throws about 60 pounds per square inch. So that's a
So it's
little too
jet
strong.
fuel pump.
Yeah, so to be able to put avgas, they need to change that pump out, and then they have to, of course, incorporate a card reader for self-serve in all the equipment that Oklahoma Corporation Commission will require. And Oklahoma's in a unique state in that regard. They had, this company had installed tanks at the facility when they first came in, and Corporation Commission showed up and said, you can't do this, you've got to take all this out. And so they spent, and that was the same process that worked in Texas and Florida and some other state that they had done operations, and then they showed up here, and Corporation Commission said, no, we don't do that in Oklahoma that way. So they had to pull everything back out, reinstall everything the way OCC wanted them to do. And so they were already kind of behind the gun on the cost on that. So I think they're a little gun shy about jumping ahead and trying to put something else in at this point, but they're amenable to do it. They'd like to see something like that happen. That'd certainly increase traffic probably in the airport.
I was just
And if we
thinking
did an air
it'd be
show or
profit
something
for
like
us.
that.
The self-serve stuff wouldn't have to go through them.
Oh, right.
It would go through for us. And I could just tell you, and I'm sorry if I'm overstepping my bounds, being new and all. I think you mentioned that there's a restaurant on the field at some, I think that
It's
there's a
in the-
restaurant
it's in the
nearby,
industrial
and then
park.
there's a golf course. And I can tell you from the GA community, people are always looking for places to fly in to go get food on the
Yes.
weekends. And without having any kind of avgas, it really does make it more difficult. Not that people go and buy the avgas very often, but it is, knowing that there is self-serve there would always really increase that visibility.
You
So
could host our first fly-in.
I would
And
absolutely.
we'll bring a
Get
tanker.
that FBO repaired.
We'll bring a tanker.
Oh, I've got a
though,
plan.
For the avgas. Yes, we were just,
Baby steps are taking place.
I want to take bigger than baby steps.
Okay, all right, we'll take larger steps.
So, yeah.
Adjust that appropriation
new-
and see what we can do.
Fly in and golf tournament.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. It would draw
Yeah.
people from all over Oklahoma.
And instead.
I think we do a
that one
5K
time I
run
said
down
I'd-
the runway.
I'd run it.
5K.
I'd rather just bike it,
Ooh, yeah.
you know.
I'll go with you.
Yeah, we don't need a courtesy car, we just have a
I was like,
courtesy
I don't
bike
know if
over
I
there.
wanna- I mean, to do one loop, that's like 10 miles maybe,
We have,
but I'll bike it.
I think OHP manages about 11 miles of road, and I think we've got 22 miles of road in the industrial park, all zigzagging around, so we've got a lot to maintain out there on that
Well,
side.
that's a
So
marathon.
Lots of bike paths out there.
We could have the marathon. Lots of good stuff.
Finish down the middle of the runway.
Yeah.
Craig, I was looking at the bipartisan infrastructure money. We didn't get any, correct?
No, sir.
I don't see us on the list. Dang it.
Is that where we joined up with SWOTA, or is that something
SWOTA made an
different?
application for one of the grants that was a part of that. And,
Okay.
Did we put in for that?
We put in for opera monies, yes.
For the bipartisan infrastructure money?
Which one was that?
That's the one
When did we put
that's the
that up?
15 billion that they gave to airports for infrastructure. And I just got the list of all the airports that got money, and I didn't see us on there. I was just kind of curious.
Is this the OAC?
No,
or
this
the
is federal
country?
dollars.
Federal, okay.
No, this is from.
I'm sure you had to probably be
No, there's some really
certified.
little, small, Elk City's on here, Enid's on here,
We didn't have,
Cushing,
we
Clinton's
didn't
on
have
here.
enough based aircraft at the time to even
Okay,
qualify for
that may be
FAA
what it
NRE
was.
monies.
Yeah.
You've got to have
Yeah.
9,
Yeah,
or
okay,
10
okay,
based aircraft.
okay.
So I'm sure they didn't even look at us at that point. We only, again, baby steps. I
You-
now
you know,
have,
but it-
I now have enough aircraft based at
It's
the airport.
Biden's infrastructure money is what it was.
Okay,
It's called the bipartisan infrastructure bill.
okay. Yeah,
I
I'm
didn't
sure-
see us on there, I was just kind of curious, but that makes sense if we didn't
We
have
flew under
enough
that
based
radar,
airports.
not having the planes, I'm sure.
Because every little city around us got money.
Another reason to try to get that avgas in, because then you, if you need to up the based aircraft, you'll have GA
Yeah.
renting your hangars and stuff.
I want you, everybody to understand, but everybody watching online, people on the board, I'm not opposed. I'm working to get there. I seek to see that happen. And again, we went for 5 years without an FBO at our facility, so we're,
Yeah.
we're,
Like I said,
we're
I was-
trying.
I just,
Yeah.
just was asking the questions and.
You bet. I just want everybody to understand, I'm not playing defense on this. I want to see it happen too.
All right.
I was just thinking of money, other monies that might be out there is what I was thinking.
Mhm. It'd be great to have some of that.
I think we have some positive feedback from Director Grayson Ardis of the Oklahoma Aerospace Commission, and are a part of their proposal for dollars, where they could, whatever they get allocated, they could support some development at Oklahoma Spaceport.
If anybody listening even, if you know of monies out there, we can accept monies. So if somebody wants to make sure we have avgas at our facility,
Have
we
we
can take
talked-
contributions.
Have we talked to Grayson about putting avgas out there at our facility?
I've not had that specific conversation.
That's something we may
Yeah.
want to tap him for, because that'd be something like they could help with.
Yeah, had you started when we talked about FBO options? Have we talked about that with you since you've started? I think general, that was with Bill, okay. At the time, we've looked at it, so we should just dust off that study.
Yeah. I
It
remember.
was, we had other things that we were trying to support and figure out at the time, and the distraction and the challenges of, at the time, we didn't have a building at all. It was, still had some dead raccoons and things inside it. And it was a long, and there weren't even tanks. And so we looked at the options, but it wasn't the right timing for us. But we did recognize it would be a great
Yeah,
future opportunity, so,
we need to paint the tower at the time.
yeah.
Open a clinic.
And, yeah, open a clinic
Yeah.
and, find a wastewater valve. Let's see, there's
If you jump on the
goals.
board, if you want to see something happen quickly, this may be a challenge.
Yeah, space is a
It's
long-term
a
vision. Yeah.
long,
We also had do you have your goals in this report?
I do, it's, I'm
Yeah.
not sure if it's the next slide.
Renew
or- I think it
our
might be in the,
spaceport license, renew our joint user agreement,
what's the next slide, Cam?
hire you.
Here's,
Yeah.
if you want to touch on this, but this,
Go for it.
actually, I was going to save this till board member comments. I think this might be more appropriate for that portion.
Oh,
again.
okay.
So go back, Kim, if you would. And that's the completion of the facility improvement report. Any other questions?
No, thank you. Good dialogue, feedback. Okay, moving on, agenda item 1692. This is the Luxair Jet Center, who is currently in our FBO, or improving it. It'd be considered a leasehold improvement. And originally, we were going to invest and improve it, but our specialty is not in building out an FBO, and so Director Smith came up with a creative approach to ask that they invest in it as a leasehold improvement. And you want to tell them a little bit about that?
Exactly.
And
So-
they had paid us $30,000 to begin that process, so we thought, this is your thing. Take this back and you take it to the next level.
I don't think I could have done it any better.
Yeah.
You've outlined it very well. Well, yeah, we went for a number of years without having any fuel services at the facility. In August of 2020, this company came in and they wanted to take over, or they wanted to provide fueling service at the facility. We made an agreement that they could use that office space at that hangar, and that we would repair it. And they said, that sounds a great idea. Here's $30,000 toward those repairs, in addition to the rent. After going through all the processes and trying multiple times, trying to do it through the processes of the state, came to the realization that it's going to cost us a whole lot more money that I could be spending toward purchasing an avgas tank or whatever it may be, or repairing my numerous buildings on the site. And I brought it to them. I said, how about you guys do it? You guys don't have to go through all the processes that I do. I've already got the engineering plans. I already have the architecture's drawing. Why don't you guys take this and go with it? And so they were elated. They said, that sounds great. Can we have our $30,000 back that we gave you toward this project? And so that's the next agenda item. That's a formal request. We wanted to have a paper trail that shows why we're giving this entity $30,000 is because they gave it to us first. And so that's the letter that you see in your packet, and that's what we're looking to vote on today. So my recommendation, or my hope, is that that you will see that, understand the background of why we're doing this, and I'll see how you guys.
Which tab is this under, or is there a deeper? Oh, thank you.
So,
Yeah.
Craig, if they're gonna remodel, are they gonna do it to their specifics and likings, or are they gonna ask for our input? Are they gonna ask for our approval?
Right, I've given them the engineering report, I've given them the architecture's design and proposal, what's needed, what's necessary. They're gonna do that, and they're gonna make it nice. It's gonna be their building. They want it to be a nice doorstep for the country as well. A lot of cross-country flights stop here. This is an ideal place when you're flying to the races in southeast Oklahoma, or southeast United States, or you're flying to play golf on the West Coast. You don't have to stop for very long here. You fuel, you go. We've got a tower, we've got a firefighter unit, so they want it to be someplace that people want to come back to as well. And we benefit from a fuel flow fee, so we get money on top of that as well.
Are they giving us any guarantee the money will go towards that if we give it back to them? In other words, that they will really go renovate this FBO?
We're not losing any money on this.
Pardon?
We're not losing any money on this.
I
They're
didn't
still
say we
paying
were-
rent.
I didn't say we were losing money. I know they gave it to us, and
Mhm.
we're giving it back. But we're giving it back for an intended purpose. I'm just curious if we are gonna get anything that says they'll really do it.
Yeah, the last sentence of the first.
We appreciate
paragraph.
the leadership. We look forward to seeing an entire facility continue to develop.
The last sentence of the first paragraph.
Oh, okay.
OSIDA, let's see, Luxair intends
Tends
to
to embark on
embark.
necessary, apply it towards repair costs.
They want to see a nice facility.
I'm
And
not-
bless their hearts, they've waited.
I'm
a year and a
I'm
half.
not saying that they would do anything with it. I'm just wondering if we've got a guarantee that they were gonna spend it for the intended purpose.
I'm not opposed to that. I can go back to them, but I would need, since we don't meet again till July.
I mean, if you, Dave, if you think that, if that says that, then I'm okay.
They have signed a 3-year lease with us.
Yeah, I understand that.
They're gonna.
I just would like to have an FBO out there.
It seems, yes, it says that to me.
It implies it, but yeah.
No, it says Luxair intends to embark on repairs necessary. But the only thing I'd request is, can they give us a projected timeline of when they're gonna do it?
Yeah.
That's my question.
They're facing some of the challenges as well of finding contractors, but they found.
Yeah,
a few
no
that-
doubt.
A timeline shows intent, so I'm happy there.
Yeah. If they could just give us a timeline of when, not a, detailed milestone chart,
No.
but,
Right.
what is their plan?
Okay. And I expect at the next meeting, if they haven't already started on it, that I'll certainly, and I can follow up with you as they've had at least 3 contractors come through and give them some.
There were 2 or 3 designs that you showed us. Which one are they intended to use?
There was, for cost's sake, they didn't want to move the bathrooms. They liked where the bathrooms were. They kept the plumbing there. It's the easiest and best way to do it. And they're gonna follow the architectures and there's a firewall that has to be installed, so they're going through all the safety measures that were recommended for the project. They just saw that this was going to happen a lot faster than if we continue to go through our processes, and for probably a third the price that we would have ended up paying.
Okay.
So, any other questions?
So I'm just curious, when they give the agency the money, how is that accounted for, and then how do you account for it going back out?
That's why that's a good point. When we got it, it was part of the agreement that we're gonna give you this money toward the repair and renovation of the FBO offices. And so we've set it in an account, and we've not touched it, waiting for the opportunity to actually apply it toward a repair. And having not seen that, then, so we could have a clear paperwork to say, this is why we're giving you the money back, so it's not just this accounting blip of, why are you giving Lexair $30,000? So we wanted to have on record. That's why this board meeting is, this item's on the board meeting, so that we can have a point of reference in the future, so that 10 years down the road, somebody can say, oh, that's why. So this makes, hopefully, I'm not an accountant, but this hopefully makes it clear that anybody in the future can look back and say, that's why they've done that.
Anything else? With that, I'd entertain a motion with any further understandings, or it can be set up to approve with final approval of the executive committee or something like that.
Well, I'd move that we approve based on receiving the timeline.
Okay.
I move that.
I would
We-
second that.
Okay, thank you.
Kim, would you write that out and read it back to us before we vote, please?
Mr. Howie?
Aye.
Ms. Gurry?
Aye.
Mr. Gillette?
Aye.
Mr. Schultz?
Aye.
Ms. Rolls? Chairman Siegfried?
Aye. Okay, 1693, board member comments.
And this is where I left that slide up before we did.
Sure. Okay, this is just a quick look back of 2 years since roughly Craig started, of what we set out as a board and as a partnership with the board and the staff, with Craig leading it. So this is on progress that we've done and the goals we set. So in the beginning, our goal was to establish corporate governance structure with accountable leadership and cadence. In the beginning, we had monthly meetings, and we've moved to quarterly and allowed accountability through the subcommittees overseen by the executive committee, which is the chair, myself, the vice chair, and the treasurer, that meet twice a month bi-weekly to discuss progress, process, and status, and oversee anything that needs to be covered. We also set up an ad hoc committee, and that was to, the next bullet point was to renew the joint user agreement with the U.S. Air Force, and that ad hoc committee was chaired by General Gillette. Thank you. And he's picked up another ad hoc committee, or as chair of the ad hoc committee, anything that comes up as ad hoc.
I'm Dave Ad hoc.
Yeah.
Placed in this committee. That's a
Yes.
diplomatic way to say it.
Yeah, anything that needs to get done goes to the ad hoc committee, which is General Gillette. So
Has been
thank
in
you.
the past.
Yes. So thank you for that. And that successful renewal, it's a couple down, or process of selecting and going through a marketing and development study. And I look at that as it's kind of what all do we have, so that we can go sell, tell, and recruit and market to the rest of the country, if not the world. It's kind of the realtor and the homeowner all in one, so they can, select our place to do business. So the third thing was renew the FAA commercial spaceport license. That's been accomplished and completed. Increased communication to state executive leadership. Another one of our committees is chaired by Senator and has been senator and chair of the former, yes, and Mr. Speaker, right?
Pro temp,
Pro tem,
don't make me.
all the above. Our legislative engagement, I can't remember the name of our committee right now, legislative committee maybe, to communicate and engage there. He also runs our farming co-op, smart stuff, experience, tractors and such. So thank you for that. We established the Oklahoma Space Advisory Council, and this includes about probably 10 space or aerospace-related company leaders, and that we connect on a quarterly basis over dinner to listen and get their advice and counsel. And that has included, Administrator Bridenstine at most of those. So it's really good collaboration. And next is space incentive. Just evaluate feasibility of space industry support and attraction, similar to the aerospace incentives that the state has to offer. What could we do with space? We've been looking at it, and Oklahoma already has a really good aerospace incentive around engineers, and I think some of the other things, I can't remember the names of them, but it's, timing of those things matter, and we'll just keep monitoring that. It wasn't the right time to push or pull on that over the last couple of years. The next one was evaluate and develop a strategic plan for an aerospace complex, and that is still in progress, which was heavily based on the next the 2 bullet points below it, which is the marketing development study that is about just completed, first draft 10 days ago, and that will go through a committee review, more detail and adjustments. Big one there was first, I love to thank our former chair, General Whitcomb, for finding and hiring Craig Smith. That was your legacy.
Best thing I did.
Yeah, best thing you did. You did great. And in finding and matching the great work that former Director Curry did in his legacy here, and helped to carry that on, and you did that. So thank you. So we wanted to make sure he's successful. You're still here. We haven't run you off, and we've got, kind of a fresh team to support you. So I'm looking forward to supporting you and figuring out, writing down and reporting year 3 plans and goals for you and, the board. We did the secure the marketing study, and then we'll implement recommendations from that marketing study. And then the third one, I think you added this one, or we talked about this one, that's right, it wasn't on our last review, but seek additional funding and infrastructure improvements. To your point, did you type that in as he was? Yeah, yeah.
What would be, how do you do that?
Yeah.
Seeking additional funding.
Seek funding and support. So, it's been a good 2 years since you got here, and there we are. Progress. So, is that the last slide there, Craig?
That is, I think the next one has the next board meetings. Get your calendars out, put these on your.
Okay, right.
calendar.
Next board meeting, July 13th, followed by October 12th. Check your calendars. Please let me know if you have any further comments, or you can speak up now, or reach out to me or Craig or one another.
Just one question, Craig, we were talking about NavAid improvements for the airfield. Where are we with, is that
So
On
like
hold.
an ILS or the
Yeah.
horizontal or GPS?
Horizontal GPS.
Yeah, we're talking about radar from the Air Force and all kinds of stuff at one time.
And that is a portion that I needed to talk about as well, and if I may include this in this portion of it. We are charged by the FAA to have a airport engineer as part of our responsibilities as being in an FAA airport. And so we work through a process. There's a way you can do it through OMES, and that's the way that we had done it in the past. OAC was recently charged and permitted through legislation to be the agent for us and for this agency and for any airport actually. And so we utilized their services. They did an RFP to all the interested engineering firms out in the state to say, hey, OSIDA and Clinton Sherman Airport needs another one. Who wants to submit? So we had 4 applicants that submitted. OAC quickly recognized that one of them wasn't going to meet the needs that we needed at our airport. The other 3, Chair Siegfried and I interviewed along with OAC staff. So from that, we selected one of the entities is Delta Airport Consultants. They've been with us for about 10 years, and you have to redo it every 5 years anyway. They have an institutional knowledge of our runway and our facility, and they've brought us through some lighting improvements, some pavement improvements, joint seal repair, an entire redo of our secondary runway. And that is the entity that we will work with going forward for additional lighting. So we'll meet with them shortly to talk about where our nav aids are in this situation, and certainly with our Air Force partners to make sure that everything is up to the code for them as well. We'll visit with the pavement inspection folks as well while they're here, if they have any expertise in this field, to say, where are we in making sure that everything is up to the JUA contract as far as all our nav aids and everything that we want to make sure that we don't do anything to jeopardize our agreement with the Air Force, and certainly we want to make sure that we maintain a safe airspace and a landing zone for all of our pilots. And so working with our airport engineer, which I failed to recognize during the meeting earlier, but we do have a new airport engineer, a new contract with an existing airport engineer who knows our facility, knows where the condition of our equipment and our instruments and our pavement. And so we'll work with them to make sure that everything is in line and up to date and as it should be, including our nav aids and our ILS and all that such. Good question. I'm glad you asked that, because I failed somehow or another to include that in my remarks earlier.
And there's lots of progress, there's lots to cover, and sometimes it gets missed.
And while I'm at the mic, I want to give you a 2-year update as well. In April 2020, my 2-year anniversary will be the 20th. I was called on March 13th, I think it was, and the entire world shut down on the 17th. And so
That's right. Timing's everything.
timing was, yeah. But that in April of 2020, we had 6 tenants on the airport, resulting in a monthly income of about $11,909. Today we have 12 tenants, providing about $15,000 for about a $43,000 increase in funding every year. In April 2020, the air park, which is the industrial side, had 6 tenants, providing about $1,800 a month in income. Today we have 23 tenants, providing about $4,300 a month in revenue. Some of those are parking. We have a truck parking location. So that an additional $2,500 a month increases to about $30,000 a year. So I wanted to give the board and those listening that we are making some improvements in that regard as well. So we're moving in the right direction.
Great job,
We are.
Craig.
Yeah, great
Thanks for
job.
letting me add this summation.
Yeah. Anything else? With that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Mr. Howie?
Aye.
Ms. Carew?
Aye.
Mr. Gillette?
Aye.
Mr. Schultz?
Aye.
Ms. Rolls?
Aye.
Chairman Siegfried?
Aye. All right. Thank you. And welcome aboard.
I didn't get
us out at
2:55.
I was having fun.